Friday the 13th met Pac-12 after dark and you absolutely expected things to get freaky, shovel passes getting picked off, touchdowns with O on the scoreboard, 1-yard punts, protesters with stuffed pigs, 8-minute field goal drives, triplet-tipped interceptions. Yes, there was a little bit of everything on a freaky Friday night in Berkeley as number 8 Washington State became the second top 10 team in as many games to get upset, falling 373 to a Cal team that punched far above their weight but looked like the better side for 4 quarters. The outcome doubled as head coach Justin Wilcox's first conference win and a signature victory to hang his hat on as just the second ever upset of a top 10 team in school history. The Bears paved the way with his trademark defense and looked nothing like the squad that was ranked in the 100s in most defensive categories last year. Cal was feisty from the opening kickoff, recording 9 sacks, 7 turnovers and a trio of 3 and outs all told. Taking the brunt of that effort was quarterback Luke Falk. The Cougars' prolific signal caller had a hand in his face all night long in an offense that never seemed to click, and he put up only 291 yards, with no touchdowns and 5 interceptions. While his receivers made a few catch-and-runs, there was never much in the way of sustained drives outside of a lone 8-minute field goal effort that resulted in the only points of the game for Wazoo. Counterpart Ross Bowers looked like he was the one setting a host of Pac-12 career records instead, as the sophomore threw for 259 yards and a touchdown while coming up with a key play whenever it was needed. That included a memorable play-action toss to the end zone just as time expired in the first half, and this incredible scramble and flip across the goal line that might be one of the plays of the year, though he didn't stick the landing. Bowers did do so in pulling off a similar move back in high school and has plenty of experience considering his mother is a former Washington gymnastics coach. His buddy in the backfield, tailback Vic Ware, also chipped in with 102 yards rushing and a score as well. The blowout loss ends a hot 60 start for Mike Leach's side and comes as part of a rough second half of the season that sees them hit the road in 5 of their final 7. Despite the setback inside the conference, the Cougars do still control their own destiny inside the Pac-12 North, but likely saw those whispers of being a dark horse college football playoff contender go away. But those are thoughts for another time, as the Bears lifted plenty of spirits in the Bay Area with a historic win in Strawberry Canyon on a night where strange doesn't even begin to describe things. One of the bigger storylines heading into Week 7 was the fact that there were no ranked versus ranked matchups, the subliminal implication being that this would be an uneventful weekend. As is oftentimes the case, the sport of college football scoffed in the general direction of conventional wisdom. Friday night begat number 2 Clemson falling to Syracuse and number 8 Washington State embarrassing itself against Cal. Saturday afternoon begat number 10 Auburn coughing up a second-half lead and a loss to LSU. Early Sunday morning brought additional top 10 carnage. Ranked 5th nationally and winners of 9 straight in the regular season, Washington entered the weekend comfortable favorites over 23 Arizona State. In a game that didn't feel as close as the final score indicated, however, UW fell from the ranks of the unbeaten as Arizona State laid a stunning 137 loss on the Huskies. UW's loss means that 4 of the teams ranked in the Associated Press top 10 coming into Week 7 went down in defeat ahead of Week 8 in the biggest top-shelf shakeup of the 2017 season thus far. The teams that avoided being caught up in the upset maelstrom: number 1 Alabama, number 3 Penn State, number 4 Georgia, number 6 TCU, number 7 Wisconsin and number 9 Ohio State. The Nittany Lions were on a bye this weekend, while the other 5 top 10 teams left unscathed won by an average of 25.4 points. Take away UW's 8-point win over Purdue, and that average jumps to nearly 30. Add it all up and it was, on all fronts, a seismic shift when it comes to the Power 5 balance of power. Then there's this when you add in number 19 San Diego State getting beat by Boise State, a significant development in the group of 5. 5 undefeated teams suffered their first losses of the 2017 season. And, again, this great sport scoffs in the general direction of what you think may or may not happen any particular weekend. I'm thinking even video game freaks would dismiss this as implausible, even as it's as real and impressive as it gets. In Week 6, Khalil Tate rushed for 327 yards in a win over Colorado, setting the FBS single-game record for a quarterback. A week later, the sophomore added to this impressive October run as he ran for 230 yards in a 4,730 win over UCLA, becoming the first FBS quarterback in 2 decades to put together back-to-back 200-yard games. The 557 rushing yards combined in the 2 games are more than all but 19 players had in the first 6 weeks entering this weekend. Hell, it's more than 10 teams had coming into Saturday as well. Perhaps the most impressive part of this historic run, Tate has accomplished this ground game carnage on just 29 carries. For those scoring at home without a calculator or a pad and paper or the mental acumen to do it in your head, that averages out to 19.2 yards per carry. In other words, Tate has just been flat ridiculous. Most quarterbacks would have taken a sack on this play. Khalil Tate is not most quarterbacks. Pic.twitter.com. No 60 Hesef Wick, Arizona Football at Arizona Fall, October 15, 2017. Somewhat lost in the statistical flurry is what the player has meant to his team's bottom line. Tate didn't start the season as UA's starter under center, and the Wildcats began the year a middling 22. The past 2 weeks, however, the Tattled Cats have gone 20 and are now behind only USC in the Pac-12 South. Things got weird as the sun set on the Bay Area on Friday and Cal pulled off the upset of number 8 Washington State on Friday night. A day later and much further south, things were equally strange, even if the ranked team didn't look like it was quite on upset alert. Number 23 Stanford wound up with a 287 lead into halftime over Oregon down on the farm, but the locale lived up to its nickname in Palo Alto as a jackrabbit found its way onto the field late in the first quarter in one of those incredible moments that could only happen late into the night out west. In actual game action though, Cardinal running back Bryce Love was once again adding to his Heisman highlight reel by ripping off a 67-yard touchdown run early on and finishing the half with 142 yards and a total of 2 scores. Wideout J.J. Arcega-Whiteside added another score through the air as Stanford's normally hectic offense seemed to do what it pleased against the Ducks. That also included special teams, as Brandon Simmons scooped and scored off a punt block in the second quarter. The lopsided score was a little surprising considering how well Oregon ran the ball in the half. Royce Freeman wound up with 121 yards on just 12 carries and 3 others managed at least 25 on the ground too. The flip side was backup quarterback Braxton Burmeister managed just 1 completion for 4 yards. Things figure to get even tougher for the young signal caller as Stanford gets back 2 of its best defenders for the second half in Harrison Phillips and Peter Kalambayi after each returns from a targeting penalty from their last game. On Saturday night, the many faces of Sam Darnold in 2017 were on display. There was the dazzling, of course, throwing for 358 yards and 3 scores. There was the head-scratching, such as a trio of fumbles. All things considered, the bottom line might be the most important aspect of the star quarterback's outing against Utah as number 13 USC used a thrilling second-half comeback to win 2,827 on Saturday night. All 3 of those fumbles from Darnold, one that was returned for a touchdown, occurred in the first half where not much could go right for the Cardinal and Gold. Luckily, a trip to the locker room proved to be just the remedy for the team's struggles as 3 of their 4 second-half drives resulted in 88-yard scoring drives. Playing a big role in that turnaround was the USC offensive line and running back Ronald Jones too, who finished the game with 111 yards and the go-ahead points on a front flip touchdown into the end zone. Making a return to Los Angeles not far from where he grew up, Utah QB Troy Williams started once again in place of the injured Tyler Huntley. The senior wound up throwing for 262 yards and a touchdown but tossed an interception and was stopped just short of the goal line on a 2-point conversion with 42 seconds left that would have won the Utes the game. Running back Zach Moss, who bruised his way to 141 yards, but it was just not enough in the end. Everybody in Salt Lake City will now be forced to bemoan the second-half slump that led to a blown loss and the decision by Kyle Whittingham for go for 2 instead of the tie with under a minute left. Those second guesses won't be easy to take as the team now has lost 2 straight in the conference, but this still seems like the second best squad in the division. The best, well, that is the school they narrowly lost to. The incredible momentum swings that resulted in a Trojans victory gives them a significant leg up in the Pac-12 South race and also keeps them in the hunt for the college football playoff. In addition to securing the tiebreaker over the Utes, a pair of bounce-back wins since that tough loss up in Pullman could be big for USC as they head to South Bend next for a huge game against rival Notre Dame next week. On a weekend where a ton of top 15 teams looked shaky, surviving and coming out with a win is certainly a step in the right direction for Darnold and company given how things played out earlier.